Here's the latest update on Tropical Storm Ian. As of early Sunday evening East Coast time, Ian is still a low end weak tropical storm with maximum sustained winds of 45 miles per hour. That center of circulation just isn't too impressive right now. There's still some wind shear that is disrupting the system, but the wind shear has started to lessen and going to become non-existent overnight into Monday morning, and that's going to allow the system to really start to organize and eventually intensifying pretty quickly, if not rapidly. And by this time tomorrow, expecting Ian to already become a hurricane by early Monday afternoon, and eventually a major hurricane by early Tuesday afternoon. Ian has made a notable northward jog over the past 6 hours, but overall, that motion is still to the west northwest at about 12 miles per hour. But over the next 12 to 24 hours, we're going to expect Ian's center of circulation to start to jog more to the northwest, followed by the north northwest throughout the day on Monday into Tuesday, eventually tracking across Cuba, turning more to the north, and then eventually the northeast by late Wednesday into Thursday. Now, we're expecting Ian to cross over the far western tip of Cuba. This will be overnight Monday, early Tuesday morning, and that far western tip of Cuba, it's relatively small and it just doesn't have the terrain that other parts of Cuba have. So that's not really going to disrupt Ian too much. So by the time Ian crosses over western Cuba and enters the southeastern Gulf of Mexico on Tuesday, early Tuesday afternoon, Ian should become a major hurricane at that point. Now, a major hurricane is a category 3 or stronger, so the winds would be at least 111 miles per hour. And the National Hurricane Center is expecting Ian to become a category 4 hurricane as we work our way into the late Tuesday overnight hours into Wednesday morning. This will be well off at the southwestern coast of Florida, but again expected to become a major hurricane. Eventually, it will start to weaken late Wednesday into Thursday as some wind shear moves over the system, but that does not mean those impacts are going to lessen. We're going to talk about that here in just a second, but I want to show you a closer look at the forecast from the National Hurricane Center. The National Hurricane Center has been very consistent with this forecast so far, and notice that most of the Florida Panhandle, the central and eastern parts of the Florida Panhandle, all of the Florida Peninsula, even northern parts of southern Florida, all included within this cone. So I want to point out, don't focus too much on the exact track of that center of circulation. Just keep in mind, if you are in or near this cone, you need to take this system seriously. You need to listen to your local authorities and officials and evacuate if they tell you to do so. Because keep in mind, just small changes can shift this a little farther west, a little farther east, and those changes will occur over the next 72 hours. So just keep in mind, pretty much all of Florida is within that cone. So you need to be taking this system seriously, all the way from nearly that Florida, Alabama line, all the way down to well south of Tampa. You can see that cone pretty large, but this will slowly start to tighten up again over the next 72 hours or so. This system is expected to make landfall right now late Thursday as a hurricane. Now it appears, again, this system could start to encounter a little bit of wind shear late Wednesday into Thursday, weakening the system, kind of disrupting that center of circulation. However, as it does that, and as it is influenced by a trough that's providing that shear, we're going to see this system really start to expand its wind field. So it's going to really start impacting a very large area of real estate with significant winds, rain, storm surge, and isolated tornadoes. So again, those are some of the big hazards with this system. We're going to take a look at that rainfall forecast here in just a few moments, but I want to show you the spaghetti plot. So each one of these lines represents where a model depicts that center of circulation tracking. And as you can see, the models are pretty tightly clustered from the central Florida Panhandle all the way down to that southern tip of the Florida Peninsula. So pretty good consensus. We would like it to be a little bit tighter, but overall, the models are handling this well and are slowly starting to converge on a scenario that most likely would be near Tampa or just a little bit north of Tampa. Again, don't focus too much on that exact track of that center of circulation. That is still going to adjust over the coming days. And again, most of Florida are going to see impacts from this system. What we're really focused on is that wind shear decreasing, and that's already taking place and going to become nearly non-existent by this time on Monday. And we're noticing the water is just very warm, well above average in this area. It's always warm, but they're running above average. We have that light wind shear, and the northern parts of the Caribbean and the eastern and especially the southeastern Gulf of Mexico have ocean water temperatures, the sea surface temperatures between, say, 86 and nearly 90 degrees. So we have a system that's going to encounter very minimal to no wind shear, extremely warm sea surface temperatures to get that warm, moist air that this system is just really going to feed off. And that's going to allow that intensification. And the great women and men at the National Hurricane Center are saying, hey, this is going to likely become a high-end Category 3, low-end Category 4 system. It seems like the ice storms just always really intensify and impact the U.S., and we're expecting the system to become strong. The models are very tightly clustered on a solution indicating this storm will become a hurricane, becoming a major hurricane, likely a strong Category 3 or low-end Category 4 storm as we work our way into Tuesday and Wednesday. So models are agreeing that this system is going to become strong, and there are going to be some impacts not only in Florida but for southeastern parts of the U.S. This is the rainfall forecast. So the storm surge is going to be a really big issue for Florida. All of western Florida, even storm surge and just rough seas could impact other parts of the northeastern or north central Gulf of Mexico. So just keep that in mind. There could be impacts far away from that center of circulation. So storm surge is a big issue. Wind is going to be a big issue, especially for Florida, possibly into South Georgia, and possibly eastern or coastal parts of the Carolinas. There will also be isolated tornadoes. Yes, these are all hazards. What's also another hazard is that freshwater flooding due to heavy rainfall. The current WPC forecast, this is the 7-day rainfall forecast, shows a swath of heavy rain all the way from eastern parts of Alabama, Florida, Georgia, the Carolinas, up into the mid-Atlantic. Again, this will slightly adjust over the coming days, but right now expecting some very heavy rainfall that could lead to some areas of flooding. Take a look at this. We're talking about even eastern parts of Alabama seeing 1 to possibly 3 inches of rain. Most of Florida seeing between 3 to 10 inches of rain with isolated amounts in excess of that, maybe 15 to 20 inches isolated in nature, but still there's that possibility to see over a foot of rain in parts of Florida. And look at Georgia, the Carolinas, dealing with all the way up into Virginia, seeing amounts of rain 3 to 8 inches. That's likely going to cause some flooding with some higher amounts for coastal parts of Georgia, South Carolina, as well as North Carolina. And even some of that heavy rain extends into parts of eastern Tennessee. So this is going to not only provide impacts to Florida, but into parts of the southeast, especially the coastal parts of the southeast up toward the mid-Atlantic as well. So this system is going to begin seeing impacts in Florida Tuesday, and we're going to see impacts in the U.S. continuing all the way throughout Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, possibly into Sunday as well. So this is a system we're going to continue to track over the coming days. Again, keep checking back for the latest forecast. There will be changes, and listen to your local meteorologist on TV, on the radio, online. Make sure you're listening to your officials and authorities too. They're just trying to do what's best for you. You want to protect yourself, your pets, your kiddos, as well as your other loved ones and your property.